Okay, thank you all for joining this week's customer training webinar. My name is Eric Bowling with IPC Technologies. We have our senior engineer, David Shaw, who will be doing our presentation today. What we're going to be talking about today are configuring event filters on MiVoice Connect. So this is specifically for the MiVoice Connect platform. What we've done is we've identified 10 or so of the more popular, more common event filters that you can set into the system that will help you be alerted with special events that happen within your MiVoice Connect system. Those could be something like the trunk going down, maybe your PRID channel disappears, or there's some sessions that are causing issues with connectivity, perhaps a full voicemail disk on your server is getting full to a certain point where you want to clean out some voicemails, or even things like someone just dialed 911 from my phone system, and so I want to be alerted to that with the event filter capability. Specific to 911, we do have advanced applications that do support that, but we will cover the simple event filter for 911 as well. And so I just wanted to remind everybody that we are recording this session. So if you see something you like and you want to share it with someone else in your organization, feel free to point them back to the IPC Tech webinar section on our website. This should be loaded up here in the next day or so after our presentation today. We will also take questions. So if you do have questions in the side panel, everyone has joined mute only. But if you have some questions, we'll be monitoring those through the presentation. And so what we will do now is we'll go ahead and get started. I am going to move the sharing over to David Shaw. And so David is going to take it away from here. Go ahead, David.
Alrighty, good afternoon, everyone. Again, this is David Shaw. I'm one of the senior engineers at IPC Technologies. And again, today we're going to be covering how to set up event filters within your MiVoice Connect platform. And today I'm going to be showing you kind of start to finish on how we do that, the different alerts that you can set up for your system. So let me share my screen here. And see, Eric, can you all see my screen?
Yes, looks good. I see we got our event numbers listed on the notes.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. So I'm going to back up a bit here and how we get these alerts set up. So first of all, these are alerts that are sent via email from your headquarters server, again, directly to your email. And so obviously we'll want to make sure that our server is actually set up to send email, and to make sure you can get that to your mailbox. So just very quickly here, I'm going to show you guys where we set those up. So if we pull up our
David, we're still seeing your notes, the notebook.
Okay. Let me drag this over. About now.
Now we're looking at your administrative tools, Internet Information Service Manager window.
Okay, great. Yeah. So this is what I wanted to show. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah. So again, first we have to set up our server to make sure it can actually send the emails to you all. And so if we pull up our ISS manager on our server, or actually our ISS 6.0 manager, that is. So I'm not going to get in grave detail here, but obviously we'll want to make sure that our server is set up to make sure you're sending to the correct domain. For IPC, we have our email is set up in Office 365, as probably a lot of folks are here in the webinar today. So if we look at our properties, and we can help you guys set this up. We want to make sure in our delivery tab and on our advanced tab that we're set up to point to Office 365, right? Otherwise, your server is not going to know where to send those alert emails to, right? And so once we get our access set up to point to our email server, or if you have still have an Exchange server, you can pop that in here as well, with 2 brackets and the IP address. So once you have that set up here, you'll want to go ahead and get into your director. And once you log in, if you hit your maintenance page here, and then you scroll on down here to your event filters, this is where we actually set up the filters. All right. So see here, you can see I've set up at least one specific filter, just so I can show you all kind of how these are set up. Here in the server section, we're going to make sure our server, any of our servers that receive that event ID are able to send out. The source here, that as far as the event filter is concerned, we typically leave these on any, so that way it's a monitoring for any of the list of categories that Mitel has set up for event filters. All right, so you can leave it pretty broad, leave it as any. And as well as the category, and I'll show you here in a minute, there's about 3 or 4 different categories, including an error category, warning, or critical, those kinds of filters. You can set that up here as well, but we typically leave that as any and wide open. The most important part is obviously going to be the event filter, the actual ID itself. This particular ID I've set up, 5103, is an ID that shows whenever someone attempts to log into their MiVoice Connect client, or maybe the director, and their credentials fail, right? So once you pop in your ID, again, these are the types of categories we can have filled out for the types. So we typically leave those as all, and then you're going to define the email address that you want the alert sent to. All right. So in this particular case, I've put my email alert, but you can include a distribution group if you want. If you have your help desk or anything like that, you can define that in this section here, and it'll send out that email. And what happens once you get the email here? Let's pop up a sample. Let's see here. Oh, here, sorry. Hopefully you guys can see this here. This is a sample email from the MiVoice Connect system that tells me, okay, the server that sent the ID. It shows you the version that you're running, the type of ID it was, or warning, the time and date, of course, and the actual ID, and with a description of exactly what happened. Right. So this is what it looks like when you actually receive that email for that particular event that you set up. And you can set up multiple events if you want. We typically, so we only have the one here, but when we set the IDs up, we typically try to warn our customers of setting up too many IDs, because if you're getting 15 to 20 alerts a day, at some point you may stop paying attention to those, may kind of ignore them. You may see one that you think is the same as the others that you've set up. But you'll want to be careful in the amount of event filters that you actually set up, because again, that can create a lot of emails that you see that you kind of over time may disregard. So you may be careful in the amount that you set up. Again, we typically go anywhere between 5 to 10 different IDs that we'll set up. And so I want to go over just a couple of those key event filters that we set up a lot of times for customers. And I'll actually show you guys in the maintenance guide that Mitel provides, that actually has a list of all the filters and the IDs that you can set up. And so if you want to get a copy of this maintenance guide and take a look at those event filters, you can actually click on the reporting or the documentation icon in the directory, the one here at the top left-hand corner with the books. You click on that and you click on the Mitel Doc Center. It should take you to Mitel's documentation website. And the top one we're going to be looking for here is the MiVoice Connect platform. And this is the latest maintenance guide for the latest version of MiVoice Connect, but the event filters apply all through the same of MiVoice Connect. So if you click on this here, you can actually get a copy of that and download that document and have a copy for yourself. Let's see. So I am going to jump to page 182 on this document here. That's where the actual event filters start. And this is kind of an overview of the different categories of event filters you can get into and which ones you may want to set up. I'm going to show you guys here just a few key ones that you may want to, once you get into your system and get them set up, you may want to take a look at these guys here. So the first one, as you can see, and really quickly, you have your columns here. It tells you the event ID, the type of security level you're looking at, the message format, right? So it'll show, in this case, it says voice switch host name. So that may be your SGT1K, lost connection to, another switch, for example. But this is the actual message format that it shows. It even shows you a little cause of why that is, and also a suggested action for you to take to remedy that issue. A lot of times the issues that may occur, you guys may be able to even see here what that action is that you can take before even contacting IPC. Of course, we're always happy to help, but you may want to take a look at the action and see what the suggested resolution is for that issue. So let's see, one of the first IDs I want to show you guys here that we set up often is a switch TMS issue. So this is a telephony management service that if that service stops on that switch or has an issue communicating with your main server, you could have some issues with that switch, right? So whether that be a phone switch that your phone resources live on, or an actual trunk switch that your PRI or maybe your SIP trunks live on, this is event filter 161. Will give you that alert. And let's see here. And what I'll do as well is we can provide a list of these top events that we set up, and if you want to get those set up on your system. Let's see here. Another one I want to show you guys is the fan on the voice switch is running slow, or if it's failed. If you have a physical voice switch and that voice switch starts to the fan stops working on that switch, obviously that could cause a temperature issue, and that switch could die at any minute. So that's a big one that folks like to know about if their fan actually fails. Let's see here. I'm gonna jump to event filter. Let's see here. Oh, 1319 is another big event filter. That's for your if someone dials 911 or an emergency number. Again, there is the event 911 notification software that we can apply to your system to where you can receive those alerts, and it comes with a few more bells and whistles on specific location. But this alert at least will let you know which extension dials a particular, if it dials 911, and what location that may be set up for.
Yeah, this is a good one here. The 911 is a good one to set up for office locations where perhaps if you want to notify a larger group than just some emergency personnel. So for example, if the guy in the office next to me dials 911, I should probably know that. And so expanding the notifications within the office for those events may be helpful. and just saving some time with broadening who would get that event notification. And that would be maybe users who don't currently utilize the advanced notification application that Mitel also provides.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Let's see here, and another big one, as I mentioned before, is if your PRI goes down, if your data channel, which is that connection between your T1 switch, or your physical T1 Mitel switch, that connection between that switch and your carrier's whatever their PRI interface is. A lot of times that's an Adtran router, different devices like that. If that connection is broken, or there's a mismatch in the switch and the cable that's connected to that, for any reason, if someone knocks over, accidentally bumps the cable when there's, someone cleaning in your server room, that if that connection is broken, you can receive an event filter for that to pop up, and it'll show you exactly where that which switch was having an issue.
And that can also be used as an event to be sure to call your carrier. Most of the time when a D channel goes down, it's a carrier related issue, but sometimes we have seen faulty cables also in our troubleshooting be the culprit for a flapping D channel if the cable isn't seated quite right, or if the cable has become bad for some reason. But in most cases, a downed D channel on a PRI is something that you would call your carrier for.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Another service here is the TMS service, which I was mentioning earlier. That's this TMS service is the telephony management service. It's a device. Each of the Mitel devices communicates via this service. So if your server sees your voice switch go down for any reason, or vice versa, this service right here is the service on that particular device that controls that communication. So this is another big one we like to have set up. Let's see, moving on along. So you guys, any of our older short tail customers may have seen this before, and it still prevails in MiVoice Connect as well today. But for physical switches, if one of your physical voice switches were to go down and boot up in FTP booted mode, you can receive an alert for that. The reason that FTP booted mode is not it's just an error or a warning, because it can cause issues on your voice switch. If that switch does not boot to flash as normal, you can receive an alert for that. You can receive different kinds of weird errors or just weird behavior on the phones that may be connected to that switch if that switch boots up in FTP booted. So if that happens, and this is a good example of Mitel providing suggested next steps, you can run what we call a burn flash command on that switch, and it tells you how to get to the particular path to run that command. That could help remedy that issue. If not, obviously, again, we're always happy to help at IPC. But this is another big one you'll see sometimes with older voice switches booting up in FTP mode. So it's good to have a warning set up for those as well if you have some older voice switches. And let's see here. I want to show you guys a couple more here. Event filter 1002 is an event where if your voice message service stops on your server for any reason, obviously pretty self-explanatory. If you have any issues with it at all, you definitely want to know if your voice message server stops. It gives you a couple of suggested items where you can check the event log and things like that. Again, that's something that we're happy to help with at IPC if you run into that issue. Let's see here. Another big one I see a lot of times is event filter 1005, which tells you if your voicemail disk is at a great 90% or greater percentage. So if your disk is filling up for any reason, obviously if it fills up all the way, you'll lose the ability to take voicemails on that particular server. So this one is a good one to check. If you need to add more space or migrate to a different server for any reason, it's a good one to have. Let's see here.
And David, am I correct that these event IDs are all housed within the Shoreware Director Windows event ID for applications on the server? So one of the things we recommend with customers is you don't want to set up too many of these, because it may just become noise if it's too many. But each of these event IDs, essentially what the system is doing is it's looking for those event IDs that are written into the application or server logs of your Windows headquarters server. And the event filter is then just simply taking that action of sending an email either to an individual user or to a distribution group. So that is where the event filters, sort of how that process looks under the hood. These are all IDs that are showing up in your server event log, and we're simply taking action, filtering certain ones out, and taking action of emailing. So sometimes it's a good exercise to periodically review your server logs just to see if there are event IDs that are reoccurring in your system that could be pointing to a potential problem, but that we just haven't set a unique event filter for. Just some additional information on how that works behind the scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, as Eric mentioned, obviously these events are actually if you pull up the event viewer on your server, you pull up your Windows logs and then your application. These are the actual events that are, that are created on the server. And like Eric mentioned, and as I mentioned at kind of the beginning of this webinar, is you don't want to set up too many, but these are just a few of the key ones that we see set up often. Let's see, I just wanted to show one other ID before I let you guys go here, which is event filter 1604. That event is for a workgroup server. There it is. If your workgroup service stops for any reason, a lot of folks have queues set up, with different workgroup agents. You can receive an event filter for that as well. But again, you can download this entire maintenance guide that has all the event filters right here in Director under the documentation icon. It takes you to the MyTel Doc Center. And once you get to the Doc Center, you'll see the MiVoice Connect platform. You can pull up the maintenance guide here, and you guys can kind of go through those and check out which ones may pertain to your system specifically. Have those set up to send to, like you said, maybe an administrator or the help desk. You can have those set to forward from your servers straight to those email addresses. And again, this is just you define those alerts. You just come into the maintenance, your event filters, and they're all listed here, which ones you want to define, and have those sent to you. And that is all that I have.
Great, thank you, David. Really appreciate everybody attending today's session. Again, short and sweet. I don't believe there's any questions. There were a couple of questions that we answered, but I do not see any remaining questions. Hopefully you have found this useful. We've got the documentation location and walking through how to set an event notification, some best practices of the top ones that David had reviewed. If you want to review those again, this recording will be up on our website in the next day or two. that you can share with others or come back and continue to review those items. So we want to thank everybody. Thanks for your partnership and trust in IPC Technologies. We're glad to be your support partner, and we look forward to having our next session, which will be in 2 weeks, I believe. And the topic escapes me at the moment, but we do these sessions every several weeks, sort of ongoing learning, free training for all of our customers. So thanks again, and everyone have a good rest of your Tuesday. Thank you.